actual who are Marvel's new Avengers, King Dynasty, and Secret Wars team. See what Screen Crush has to say about this. Check this out. About who are the new Avengers and Avengers King Dynasty and Secret Wars team. See what he has to say about that and check this out.
Avengers!
Hey, welcome back to Screen Crush. I'm Ryan Airy. Last summer, Marvel announced not just one new Avengers film, but two. Kang Dynasty will come out in 2025, and Secret Wars will come out in 2026. A year that sounds futuristic, but is only like 3 years away. These films are going to wrap up MCU's Phase 6 and the Multiverse Saga, with Jonathan Majors playing the latest big bad, Kang the Conqueror.
I'm the man who can give you the one thing you want. Time.
And that's about all we know about these movies, at least right now. Obviously, both are going to be huge, epic blockbusters featuring most, if not all, of the MCU characters who have starred in Phase 4 movies and TV shows. Kang Dynasty might end on a cliffhanger, just as Infinity War led into Endgame. These movies were also released just 1 year apart. But who will be the main characters of these films? And not just like cameos or minor roles. Who will actually make up the titular Avengers? And will there even be an actual group of superheroes called the Avengers? Or is Avengers now just a shorthand way for Marvel to describe their big crossover movies? Fans are asking these questions because Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars will be different from the Avengers films that we're used to. Tony Stark won't be leading a team of the original 6. Most, if not all, of these characters probably won't even appear, and definitely won't star in these new movies.
Original 6? You mean Jack, Kate, Curtis, son, Sayid, and baby Aaron?
No, Doug, that's the Oceanic 6 from Lost. Also, spoilers.
I'm sorry.
It's okay, nobody actually cares. High five. No, I mean, the original 6 are, of course, Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, Hulk, Black Widow, and Hawkeye. They were the original team in the first Avengers film and the first sequel, Age of Ultron. They were also part of the expanded team that went back in time in Avengers Endgame. So the best thing about all this is, wait just a second. There we go.
Hey, what's going on? Did you smell something really good?
Nope, that was just a daily reminder to center myself on this happiness trainer app called Fabulous. They're the sponsor of this video.
What's Fabulous?
I'm glad you asked. Fabulous is a digital coach, and it uses behavioral science that teaches me good habits, and those good habits help me to achieve my goals. And let me tell you, this app is great for helping with your New Year's resolutions.
Well, how does it even work?
Well, it's great. Okay, so the app uses two different approaches. One is called habit tracking. I started off by saying what I wanted to work on, like having more energy in the afternoons. And then I choose daily rituals that help me to achieve those goals. It starts off tracking little habits, like drinking water every morning or taking a deep breath. And then we added other tasks, like taking vitamins, tidying up. And there are several new habits to choose from. And the second approach is called dedicated programs, which is based on behavioral science and allows you to experience your best well-being goals. This is like a personal journey where your good behavior unlocks new letters that guide the process and add new positive actions that become part of your daily routine.
Oh, so it's like a video game, but you're able to level up yourself.
Exactly. Fabulous makes it fun to accomplish your goals and improve your life. So, if your resolution is to exercise, to write, to meditate, Fabulous helps you to achieve that goal. So I recommend you give it a try and start building your daily routine. The first 100 people who click the link in the description will get 25% off a Fabulous daily subscription. Now back to what I was saying. Phase 1 of the MCU is all about setting up these characters and their epic team up in the original Avengers film. Phase 4, on the other hand, was Marvel making a big push to move on from those original films and greatly expand the MCU's roster of superheroes. Vision died in Infinity War, Tony and Natasha died in Endgame, and Steve Rogers retired. Maybe he wants to move to Florida.
No, I don't think I will.
Clint also retired before being dragged back into the events of the Hawkeye series. So, who from the remaining heroes of the Infinity Saga and all the new faces of Phase 4 we've seen so far, who is actually being set up to lead the storylines in the Kang Dynasty?
Jack, Kate, Hurley's son, Sayid, and baby Aaron.
Doug, no, Lost has nothing to do with the MCU.
You don't know that. Disney owns both properties, and with the multiverse, anything is possible.
I guess you're right, but I am starting to regret giving you that Lost box set.
I always wanted to see Hulk fight the smoke monster. I mean, what's Hulk going to do? He can't punch smoke.
Okay, that could happen in Kang Dynasty if the Hulk fights alive, but much more likely to happen is the appearance of Shang-Chi. Besides Jonathan Majors, he's one of the only actors we can reasonably be sure will appear in Avengers 5. Kang Dynasty's director will be Shang-Chi director Destin Daniel Cretton, and it would be kind of silly if he wasn't reunited with some new Lou. Even Lou thinks so, saying in an interview that he was excited to work with Cretton on the film. But Shang-Chi makes a lot of sense story-wise too. I've mentioned in quite a few videos how the 10 rings seem to be connected to the Quantumverse and whatever Kang's plan is in the upcoming Quantumania film. It's likely the source of Shang-Chi's power will either make him a target of Kang or the perfect hero to stand against him. This is likely what Shang-Chi's post-credits scene was setting up. There, we see Wong introduce Sean and Katie to Captain Marvel and Bruce Banner. The rings are emitting a beacon, presumably to their origin point. Carol says they're not of alien origin, which doesn't disqualify the Quantumverse, which isn't really her jurisdiction. Maybe just as importantly, Bruce says this to Sean.
Welcome to the circus.
Obviously, he's implying that Shang-Chi's world is about to get pretty crazy. But he could also be formally inviting him to join the Avengers. After all, the 3 Infinity Saga characters in this scene were 3 of the heroes that survived the snap and helped defeat Thanos. In Endgame, Captain Marvel was seen reporting to Natasha, who was based out of Avengers Compound. Now, while it's not explicitly said, that's probably because this was a meeting of the post-snap Avengers lineup. Now, while we didn't see Bruce or Wong in this meeting, Bruce was likely still a member of the team. Wong may have been busy as the new Sorcerer Supreme, but at the very least, he was likely a close ally of the new Avengers. So, there's a good chance that we just witnessed Bruce and Carol inviting Shang-Chi to join the official team, the one that will fight Kang in the next Avengers film. And this brings me to the next character I think is likely to star in Kang Dynasty, Brie Larson's Captain Marvel. Like I said, she seemed to be a key member of the post-snap team, trying to hold the remaining half of the universe together. Her solo film came between Infinity War and Endgame, as if her origin story was also the origin of the team's newest member. Tony even implies that she's the face of the MCU's next generation.
We need you. You're new blood.
Plus, she's got Thor's seal of approval.
I like this one.
And of course, the literal name of the team comes from her call sign in the Air Force. Of course, Captain Marvel will be an Avenger. As one of the most powerful heroes in the MCU, she'll likely be drafted into the fight when Kang strikes. But don't expect her to knock him out with one punch. It would be a pretty short movie if that were the case. Likely, the power that Kang draws from the Quantumverse is probably immune or resistant to Carol's power, which is drawn from the Space Stone. Remember, the Infinity Stones have no power in the TVA, and if the TVA is in the quantum realm, and if Kang rolls over the TVA, it implies that Captain Marvel would have no power over Kang. In fact, Carol's storyline in the Kang Dynasty might focus on exactly that. She's been at the top of the superhero food chain since the mid-90s. How will she handle battling a villain immune to her abilities? She'll have to rely on her teammates, something that she's definitely not used to doing. As an Air Force pilot, she didn't need to rely on as many squad mates as the way like Marines or sailors do. She had an independent streak that clashed with her Star Force members and their leader, Jan Rog. Her character arc in Kang Dynasty might be Carol learning to work well with others in the same way that Tony had to in the original Avengers.
You're not the guy to make the sacrifice play. To lay down on a wire and let the other guy crawl over you.
One of the original teammates that she might need to rely on could be Ant-Man. Scott being a key member in this new lineup makes sense for a lot of reasons. For one, he's played by Paul Rudd, making the film instantly a lot more funny and relatable.
And handsome.
And handsome. Fun fact, Paul Rudd is 86 years old in this photo. Ant-Man's familiarity with the Quantumverse and the nature of Pym particles also gives him an advantage on Kang that nearly no other Marvel hero has, including Captain Marvel. The upcoming Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania sequel is almost certainly setting up the events of the Kang Dynasty. After all, Kang is the film's main villain. Ant-Man would also be important as a legacy character, bridging the older MCU team with the new. While he wasn't an Avenger until Endgame, Scott has been around since Phase 2, even fighting in the Avengers Civil War. Also, most of the new heroes are young, in their 20s and 30s, if not younger. The Avengers could use an older veteran on the crew. Remember, Paul Rudd is 112 years old. If it isn't Ant-Man, Doctor Strange is a top choice to fill the elder statesman slot of the Avengers. He already served as a mentor role in Spider-Man No Way Home,
Scooby-Doo this shit.
and in the Multiverse of Madness.
And you're gonna kick that witch's ass.
He's been around the block a few times, and, compared to most of the MCU heroes, has fought some really powerful opponents, like Dormammu, Thanos, and the Scarlet Witch. Strange is one of the more grounded, confident superheroes in the MCU. He would be the team's rock. He probably wouldn't want the job, but he would make a great leader of the Avengers. And of course, he's one of the leading experts on the multiverse, learning about its existence way back in the first Doctor Strange film.
Who are you in this vast multiverse?
And don't forget, there's 2 upcoming Avengers films. I wouldn't be surprised if some of the main characters differ between the two, like how Infinity War spent more time with Thanos and Spider-Man, while Endgame focused more on Cap and Nebula. Maybe Scott will be the experienced elder statesman for Kang Dynasty. Then, Strange and his multiverse knowledge will be given the focus in Secret Wars.
But what about Thor and Hawk? They've been Avengers since the very beginning.
You're totally right. They'll almost certainly be in these movies, but I don't think they'll be given one of the 3 or 4 main storylines, specifically because they've already had plenty of story. Both have come a long way since their origin stories. We've seen their arcs play out over several MCU movies for 15 years.
But now both are dads with little puppies of their own. How can their stories be over?
They're not over by any means. I think we'll see their stories continue, especially Hulk and Scars, just not in the Avengers films. I mean, they could. These movies have a ton of story potential, but if the new Avengers do prominently feature a green-skinned Hulk, I don't think it'll be Bruce or Scar. More likely, it'll be She-Hulk.
Attorney at law?
The very same. Tatiana Maslany knocked it out of the park when she played Jennifer Walters in last year's She-Hulk series on Disney+. Now, since her days on Orphan Black, she's shown that she has more than enough talent and charisma to star in a Hollywood feature film. Kevin got to see this firsthand, and I think that Marvel will play their strongest hands in the upcoming Avengers movies. There's also some rich character work these movies can do with She-Hulk.
See you on the big screen.
Now, these are massive tentpole blockbusters. Like, they're literally the opposite of her show. That was much more street level and focused on her job in the courtroom and relationship troubles than any larger supervillain threat. A key part of Jennifer's arc was accepting that, with her new powers, she could not just be a normal civilian.
Whether you like it or not, you're now a superhero.
She was going to be drawn into the superhero life whether she liked it or not.
With great power comes great probability.
Close enough. High five. When the universe is threatened by Kang, Jennifer will realize she's got no choice but to help the Avengers save the day.
We answer to a higher power.
The She-Hulk show was so good with its characterization and showing how personal stakes can be just as riveting as fighting aliens. Folding that into the fireworks of the Avengers films will make these movies even richer movie-going experiences. We love character moments. For all the mega-budget special effects sequences that we've seen, think about what really sticks with us. Peter 3 catching MJ, Cap picking up Mjolnir, Bruce always being angry. Some people had issues with She-Hulk's special effects, but you can't deny that they nailed her character, and she's not the only one that I expect them to use this way. The previous Avengers films spent plenty of time evolving Tony's character, and Thor's and Natasha's, and so on. I don't expect the new films to be any different. Like She-Hulk, Ms. Marvel is another Disney Plus hero who's ready for the big screen spotlight. As one of the youngest superheroes, she still has a lot to learn.
Do I have to figure out my whole future before launchers? Thanks.
She could also serve as an audience surrogate, the fresh, wide eyes through which we see the main events. Jubilee was this character in the 1992 animated X-Men pilot, and Falcon was the audience surrogate in 2012's Avengers Assemble, and Ms. Marvel herself filled this role in the 2020 Avengers video game. That game showed that Marvel was ready to push the character to the A-list, not just in the comics, but in all media, including the MCU. Like Tatiana Maslany, Iman Vellani is tremendously charming and affable. She's fun to watch and easy to root for. There's going to be a lot of characters and madness in these two movies, and Kamala Khan can help keep the audience focused throughout them. Plus, it's not like she'd have to be forced into the plot. Her bangles, her heritage, and a lot of her powers derive from the Noor dimension, so the multiverse is key to her character. And don't forget, in the season finale, it was revealed that Kamala was actually a mutant.
Like a mutation.
Ms. Marvel is actually the perfect character to bridge the multiverse saga with the mutant saga in Phases 7 and beyond. Now, like I noted with Doctor Strange, she doesn't need to be a main character in both Avengers films. She could have a smaller role in Kang Dynasty before Captain Marvel recruits her to the team in Secret Wars. There, her story can resolve in a way that leads into or sets up the new mutant saga. Now, of course, these are just estimated guesses based on what we've seen so far and where we know the MCU is heading. Really, anyone can be the focus point of these movies. After all, the MCU has literally dozens of main characters. Together, these movies will probably run about 6 hours. We'll likely see appearances from Shuri's Black Panther, Loki, Bucky Barnes, War Machine, Nick Fury, Kate Bishop, Ironheart, Moon Knight, Daredevil, Wong, Cassie Lang, and Wasp, if not some of the Guardians, or the Thunderbolts, or the Eternals. And of course, your mom. Hopefully, Jeremy Renner will have recovered enough from his recent accident to make an appearance as the OG Hawkeye. And of course, there's all the timeline variants that we might see, including a Tony Stark or two. Deadpool could show up, and we might finally meet some X-Men, whether from this universe or another.
Oh, and when are we getting the X-Men?
The Fantastic Four will likely have a pretty big role too. Their film is set to come out right before Kang Dynasty, and Kang is actually a descendant of Reed Richards and Sue Storm. But we know so little about the MCU's take on the team that it's impossible to know exactly how they will interact with the Avengers.
Fantastic Four. Didn't you guys chart in the 60s?
Now, there might be some heroes who don't actually appear because their stories are headed in totally different directions. It might be too soon for occult heroes like Blade, Man-Thing, and Werewolf by Night, for example. Wanda is presumed dead, and while I expect her to return at some point, it might still be too soon. The same is true for White Vision, who's still floating around somewhere out there. Maybe they'll reunite in the Mutant Saga when Wanda finds out about her true father.
He's my father.
What?
Spider-Man seems like an obvious lock for the Avengers sequels, but with Sony still owning the film rights to the character, You never know. But there's one final candidate that I think is more likely than most to not just appear, but to co-star in the next Avengers. Sam Wilson, the new Captain America. After all, how can you have an Avengers lineup without Captain America? Well, apart from when he was on the lam.
Thank you, Captain. Pretty sure this guy's a war criminal now, but whatever.
Now, a year ago, I didn't necessarily expect Sam to be so prominent in the MCU, even with his own series co-starring Bucky Barnes. Sam's evolution from the Falcon to the new Cap was a strong story for the character, but it resolved nicely, and I expected Marvel to focus on the newer faces in the MCU. But then they announced New World Order, the fourth Captain America film set to release next year, and it is shaping up to be a major entry in the MCU's Phase 5. It's likely to set up some dominoes that are going to fall into Kang Dynasty. Sam already struggled with the weight of Steve Rogers' legacy. He might have a similar struggle bringing together the next Avengers. Now, I just threw a lot of names at you. Ever since Endgame, the list of MCU heroes and villains has gotten a lot longer. But does that mean that Kang Dynasty will be about an official Avengers team made up of 6 or so of these characters? Will Ms. Marvel, Shang-Chi, and She-Hulk be operating out of the Avengers compound in upstate New York? Maybe, although maybe not. After 4+ phases of the MCU, the term Avengers has kind of evolved. At first, it did mean an official lineup of superheroes, the 6 Nick Fury that brought together in 2012.
There was an idea.
Age of Ultron expanded the roster with Wanda, Sam, Rhodey, and Vision, but Infinity War doesn't really have a literal Avengers team. Some of the characters, like Tony and Steve, don't even share a single scene together. That crossover film focused on a handful of characters and storylines spread across the universe. Tony, Doctor Strange, and the 2 Peters had one storyline going on in space. Thanos had his quest, and Gamora tried unsuccessfully to stop him. Thor, Rocket, and Groot sought a new weapon that could stop Thanos, while Cap, Natasha, and T'Challa made a last stand in Wakanda. With Infinity War, Avengers became a placeholder term for Marvel crossover.
Uh-oh, I smell another cheap cartoon crossover.
And given the sheer amount of characters and the various ways their stories connect to the larger Kang plot, I think it's likely we'll see a similar thing happen in Avengers 5. But maybe Secret Wars will be different. If there is a multiversal war or a battle world situation, the film really could hone in and focus on a lineup of superheroes. Endgame did this with the 10 time-traveling survivors of the Snap, and it was a much more focused story than Infinity War was. Endgame, of course, also ended with an epic battle featuring nearly every MCU hero that we'd met up until that point. And while they might not have had W-2s from Nick Fury, Steve literally confirmed that all these random Marvel heroes, including Wizards, Asgardians, Space Pirates, and Gwyneth Paltrow, they were all Avengers.
Avengers! Assemble.
So, whether or not the characters I focused on in this video make up an actual singular Avengers team, or have separate storylines scattered across the films, Marvel has made it clear. If you fight the good fight, consider yourself an Avenger.
Anyone can wear the mask.
But hey, that's just what I think. Who do you think should be in the new Avengers roster? Let me know in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe, smash that bell for alerts. For Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Airy.
Subscribe, like this video, very nice.